What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet again another album review for you because this week was absolutely loaded with releases. And this was one we definitely wanted to go over. We are going to go over the latest offering from 1349, The Wolf and the King. This also comes out on the 4th of October on Season of Mist Records. This band formed in 1997 in Norway, not 1349. That is actually a reference to the year the Black Plague hit Norway. Way to celebrate that. This is their 8th full-length overall. When it came down to getting into this band, I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't get into them until their last album, The Infernal Pathway, which I really enjoyed. Before that, I'd heard stuff on samplers before, and I've been meaning to get more of their stuff. I got Revelations of the Black Flame a few years ago, and I really wasn't a fan of it because it was more of their ambient album, and yeah, no, I just really wasn't a big fan because I was looking for straight-up riffy black metal, which this band does well, and it wasn't on that album.
I was introduced to this band back in 2011 with their album Demon Noir. Demon Noir? I don't know if that's how you say it.
Demon Noir.
Yep. By my buddy JJ, who used to come into my work all the time, and I was into metalcore at the time, and he said, nope, black metal, death metal, listen to this. I listened to it just to appease, whatever, and I didn't like it at the time. I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. And then, of course, you all know my recent rise to black metal, and we saw these guys at MDF, and so I was pretty stoked to hear this and check it out, because I figured, man, they were really good live, and yeah, why not?
And I was, again, a big fan of the last album, and I mean, honestly, this is 100% like 1349 in terms of their style of just blasty, aggressive, evil black metal. Every song on here is packed full of just killer riffs. Raven sounds solid on vocals. He's just got a nice, black metal delivery, lots of reverb. He sounds like a freshly awakened ghoul that's out drinking the blood of the villagers in the village he lives in. I don't know where he lives, but he probably does that. I don't know, that just sounds like a black metal thing to do. And once again, this band has the mighty Frost on drums from Satyricon and a number of other bands that he has stepped in on. That dude is an absolute blast beat machine. So all of this is propelled at rocket speed when it needs to, but it also settles into cool grooves, and he's just got amazing fills and such. Yeah, Frost is absolutely awesome.
And a good example of that would be on the song Inner Portal, which starts out with some isolated drum work, kind of a little drum solo thing. But, man, the tom rolls on that song, as that song gets going, are very impressive. I mean, really, all over this record, he is an absolute blasting beast. The song The Vessel in the Storm, which is probably easily one of the most intense songs on this record. The snare turnovers in that song are wild. To be able to blast that fast and incorporate snare turnovers in the middle of it and not skipping a beat, man.
Yeah, and the riff work on that song in particular, just super aggressive. Lots of thrashy nuance to the riffs. There's this cool little descending crawl that it does that's this part of the riff that's, I don't know, it's just kind of like a signature piece of it. And the song is kind of brutal, and brutal's not a term generally you associate with black metal. Black metal is more about being evil, but this song is just particularly just heavy and violent. And there's a lot of thrash metal in here, a lot of breaks that kind of just go into, I mean, maybe Ara Noir-ish sort of territory.
Yeah.
Or I would even say Immortal, because this band also knows how to dial up some big epic melodies. Ashes of Ages and Shadow Point both have triumphant melodies to them, but it's, evil triumphing over good because good is dumb. I learned that in a movie someplace. I love the riff changes in Ash of Ages in particular. It kind of goes from sinister to soaring, but again, it's evil soaring. There's these anthemic marched sections and syncopated riffs, and there's a lot of cool syncopated riffs on here. The riff work across the board, I think, is probably the thing that really draws me in, just because they find different ways to, kind of work around the whole black metal sound, because of course you have your atmospheric tremolos, you have icy cold ones, Inferior Pathways, Obscura in particular. Those two songs are frosty and satanic as hell, probably. But again, there's also moments of thrash metal. There's even some kind of classic heavy metal licks in there. The last track, Fatalist, has a real cool key change in terms of a riff, where it's playing the minor chords of this same riff construction, and they switch the major chords, and it just becomes a little bit more bright and anthemic, and kind of reminds you more of classic heavy metal than it does black metal, until Raven starts screaming.
And there are a lot of groovy pockets in this album too. The opening track, The God Devourer, very chuggy. Or the song Obscura, which I think is packed full of really neat riffing. There's syncopated tremolos.
Yep.
If that's a thing, like it starts off, the very first 2 notes of that are chugged, and then after that it's this cool tremolo thing, but it offers a really neat syncopated pattern that I don't think I've heard tremolos really do.
There's also really cool build-ups and atmosphere. Again, Shadow Point and Inner Portal. There's just like a good kind of steady build to the songs, and there's some occasional dropouts and such where you get like, you know, drum and bass action. All these things are kind of things that I expect from 1349, at least as far as I've listened, because, you know, this is kind of like my kind of black metal where it is very riff oriented and it still packs all the evil atmosphere that I could ever want it to. And once again, from the last album, behind the production is one Jared Pritchard, who mostly known for just being a part of the whole Tampa death metal scene. He was in Eulogy. I believe he also stood in for Brutality, one of the many times that they reformed and then broke up, and then probably reformed again and then broke up, which they might have reformed again. I don't know. I just refuse to keep up with them now.
It's like a toxic dating relationship. Fuck you, I'm leaving. Oh, I'm coming back. No, I'm leaving. No, I'm taking all your shit this time too. All right, I'm coming back.
Anyway, Jared Pritchard did an awesome job with the last album. I thought The Infernal Pathway sounded beefy, heavy, like, you know, just kind of a great sound all around. And I would say he kind of brought a little bit of like that Tampa death metal grit to their sound, because it just has like a heavier sound. Like the guitars, way chunkier. They're just kind of beefier and dirtier sounding. There's not a lot of like that kind of gainy sound to them. And that definitely shows up on this mix as well. The guitars here, I think, are even chunkier sounding. And that definitely gives weight to a lot more of the chuggy moments on here. But unfortunately, the production is definitely an issue on here. Not so much the guitars or the vocals, but the rhythm section, I think, definitely suffered on this one.
Yeah. So the snare drum is buried. Like, a good 70% of this record. I will say that it gets a little bit better towards the last like 2-3 songs, but for a majority of this record, the snare drum is buried, and that's grossly unfortunate because Frost is a blast machine, but I swear to you, the drums are muddy. The only thing you can really hear are the kick drums, and even the toms seem like they haven't been mixed correctly. They're muddy, they don't have a real good like punch to them. I don't know, it was kind of a bummer. Even the bass is fairly indistinct. I really couldn't pick up on it in too many parts. There is an isolated tom and bass section in the beginning of Inner Portal, but that's about it. And what a bummer to have a missing rhythm section. And because of that rhythm section not really being too apparent, a lot of the vocal cadences seem kind of off.
Yeah, I had issues following the rhythms of certain songs because I was trying to focus on all of it as a whole, and the vocals seemed like they were either behind or in front of the rhythm itself. They were definitely like a little bit off the beat, plus with all of the, you know, reverb on them, you get extra echoes, and like, wait, I gotta catch back up.
Yeah.
Really a big issue on Shadow Point, which Shadow Point, I think, again, has like killer riffs on it. There's like some really savage moments on there. Same thing with the opening track, The God Devourer. Like the vocals seem a little bit off, especially in transition, like some of the faster spots, because you're kind of getting like prepped to lock on to that blast beat groove, and he's kind of hanging out somewhere behind, like either that or he comes in on an off beat and it kind of throws off the whole thing. Or
it's also because, again, you can't really hear the snare drum. And like when I'm following a groove, I usually latch onto the snare drum because that's where, you know, that's where the rhythm is. Like that's what you latch onto when you find any drum beat, really. And the fact that I couldn't hear it means it's possible he came in the right place, but the drums are so buried that, you know, it sounded off.
It could be, and it's not like a dig against Raven's vocals. I think he sounds great on here. Like, he's got a very dramatic delivery. There might be a little bit too much in the way of, like, vocal processing on it, but overall he sounds good. I do think that he may have crossed a bridge too far on the last track, Fatalist, which is an odd song anyway. Like, that song sounds different than any other song in here. Honestly, the way it starts off with the weird isolated riff, it's not like a 1349 riff. It's really not even like a black metal riff. Honestly, it sounds like a black metal cover of a Voivod song that I haven't heard. The drum build behind it is kind of interesting. It kind of gets into like a more like thrashy rhythm, like a mid-tempo to fast thrashy rhythm. And then when Raven comes in, it's this more spoken word, dramatic delivery, Shakespeare in the Park.
To me, it kind of sounded like a cross between Dracula and Vincent Price. And really almost... I don't know if there's clean vocals. It sounds like he's actually singing a time or two.
There's a couple of moments where, I mean, I don't know, it's like, it's in key. It's just very odd.
It's weird.
And the delivery itself reminded me a lot of Mayhem's Grand Declaration of War, which I am not a fan of that album still. And the song is just odd when it comes down to its transitions, because you have this whole part that really kind of kicks it off. And again, it's Voivodish, which, you know, I generally welcome Voivodish tropes in music, but I don't know, it doesn't quite fit here. And then it kind of just gets right into, like, the more straightforward black metal, and there's, again, that cool key change in there that I really liked, but the song around it, it just feels, like, kind of thrown together.
Yeah.
And another issue that, well, Fatalist definitely has, and quite a few other tracks, too, is they really draw out choruses. And often the chorus is very repetitive in the sense that they like to say the title of the song over and over again. It's not necessarily bad, but they feel like they go on too long. Like the God Devourer in particular, that song is like 70% chorus. Catchy riffs and all, but I was really tired of hearing the title of the song at a certain point.
But that's not to say that there's not still killer riffs all over this album. Every song, even the songs that I thought were kind of strange or didn't hit as hard, still have some killer riffing moments, so I can't knock it there. Overall, I'm going to give this record 3 stars. It's not quite what I thought it would be, I'll be honest. Again, after seeing 1349 live, I was really, really stoked to get into this. There are things that I'm starting to appreciate about black metal, cold tremolos, riffs, and such like that, you know, are definitely in this record. And there's also things in this record that I don't appreciate about black metal, such as crappy drum mix, which, again, was really off-putting considering who is playing drums on this record. Nonetheless, it's still packed with a bunch of icy cold moments, really awesome tremolo harmonies, really great riffing, and the drums do kind of come back in the back half of the record. I enjoyed it, but it's just not quite what I thought it was. The fact that the snare drum was buried really got me. I'm a drummer myself, you know, I obviously want to hear these things, and like I said, I've seen them live, I kind of knew what to expect. Still, if you're a fan of bands like Mayhem or Marduk or Watain or probably any number of black metal bands that I'm not thinking of because I'm stupid, definitely check this out. Nick will probably tell you more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to tell you a lot of the same thing here because I'm going to give it a 3. It's decent, but I feel like it's kind of clunky in spots, and that really takes away from the listen. Like, there are points on here where I'm just, like, latched in on the killer riffs, the atmosphere. It sounds awesome, and there's other points where, again, it feels just off and, you know, rhythmically off, and it kind of drove me nuts. There are some absolutely banging tracks in here. The Vessel and the Storm, that might be one of the most intense songs I've heard from them in a while. Inner Portal, I think, is fantastic. That song's just a riff farm. But again, there are things kind of hampering this listen, and, you know, some of it is kind of due to the production, like, namely the drums. The drum production, I think if the drum production had been a little bit better on here, like less muddy, I probably would have liked it a little bit more. It just became kind of hard to follow at points. Some of the transitions can be a little bit clunky. And, I mean, for me, it kind of just came down to, like, when they're on it, they're on it. And when they're off, it's kind of noticeable. Still, if you are a big fan of bands like Satyricon, I would say Shooter, which, you know, displayed back there in case, you know, people always ask, like, what's that band back there? It's Shooter. And they're awesome. Kind of similar to this, too. I would also say, like, there's some points on here that remind me of Dissection too. Check this out. If you're a longtime 1349 fan, you're probably going to find some stuff in here you really dig. I just think they've done better in the past. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are kind of still on Patreon. I don't know, we're still figuring that thing out. But we now offer memberships. They are only 99 cents. We only have one tier. The only perk attached to it right now is a members only stream, which we will do at some point, probably like next month, because we want the memberships to build up. But that is, our new way of supporting us if you choose to. All you have to do is click the join button, probably just right below this video. And we also still have thrallsmetal.com for all of our t-shirts and hats and such. If you are interested in those two, the link is down below. So yeah, if you'd like to help us out there, we would appreciate it.
And last but not least, a ton of stuff going on here at Thralls of Metal, because we've always got stuff going on, because what else are we going to do with our lives at this point in the game? Album reviews, discography rankings, multiple discussion forums, live streams now, which have become a pretty decent thing, collection updates, because Nick's never going to stop collecting CDs. Yeah, tons of stuff, and we keep it all moving because of you guys. We genuinely appreciate all of our subscribers, our family, our friends, everyone that has supported us along the way. This thing just keeps getting bigger, and it's nuts. We just passed 19,000 subscribers, you guys. That's insane to me. That's absolutely crazy, but we appreciate you. Thank you.
I've seen crazier things on the internet. I've also seen a lot of horrible things on the internet. Fair. Either way, you guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you guys so much for every bit of support you guys give us, and we will catch you later.